For the first 30 seconds, here is exactly what this video will uncover. A Spider-Man story that looks familiar on the surface, but becomes increasingly shocking the deeper you go, revealing hidden brutality, unexpected consequences, dark humor, and uncomfortable truths about Peter Parker's life, showing why this story hits harder than most fans remember, how it quietly dismantles the idea of the friendly neighborhood hero, and why by the end you will never look at Spider-Man's jokes, sacrifices, or responsibilities in the same way again. Spider-Man has always been marketed as the relatable hero, the one who cracks jokes while dodging punches, the guy who swings away from explosions with a grin and somehow still makes it to class late. But this story slowly exposes how that cheerful image hides a level of emotional and psychological brutality that rivals some of the darkest superhero narratives ever written. At first, everything feels normal because Peter Parker's life has always been a controlled disaster of bad luck, missed opportunities, and awkward timing. Yet beneath that familiar chaos there is something unsettling brewing, a sense that this time the universe is not just laughing at Peter, but actively pushing back. What makes this story so curious is how it weaponizes normality. Because the most brutal moments do not come from cosmic villains or city-level destruction, but from small decisions, everyday responsibilities, and the exhausting pressure of trying to be everywhere at once. Peter Parker keeps moving, keeps helping, keeps joking, because that is how he survives. But the story slowly makes it clear that humor is not confidence. It is armor, and armor only works until it cracks. The more Peter jokes, the more the tension grows, because every laugh feels like borrowed time. One of the most intriguing aspects of this story is how it reframes Spider-Man's greatest strength as his most dangerous flaw, because his endless sense of responsibility traps him in a cycle where he can never stop, never rest, and never fully win. He saves one person, and 3 more need help. He stops one crime, and another unfolds across the city. And the story uses this relentless momentum to quietly strip away the fantasy that Spider-Man can actually fix everything. The city becomes less like a playground for heroics and more like an endless treadmill powered by guilt. The brutality of this story does not scream at you, it whispers, because it shows how Peter's sacrifices pile up unnoticed: missed relationships, abandoned dreams, financial stress, emotional isolation, and the constant feeling that no matter how much good he does, it will never be enough. This is where the humor becomes darkly ironic, because Spider-Man's jokes continue even as his personal life erodes, turning laughter into a coping mechanism rather than a sign of joy. The story understands that pain hits harder when it wears a smile. What truly elevates this narrative is how it refuses to give Peter an easy emotional release, because there is no single moment where everything explodes and resets. Instead, the damage accumulates slowly, almost invisibly, until the weight becomes impossible to ignore. The brutality lies in the realization that Peter Parker is not being punished for doing the wrong thing, but for trying to do the right thing too often, for too many people, without ever allowing himself to be human. There is a strange humor in how unfair it all feels, because the audience can see the pattern long before Peter does, watching him stretch himself thinner and thinner while still believing that the next swing, the next save, the next sacrifice will finally make things balance out. This ironic tension keeps the story endlessly engaging, because you are not waiting for a villain to strike, you are waiting for reality to catch up. And when it does not arrive with fireworks, but with quiet consequences that sting far more deeply. The story becomes especially brutal when it confronts the idea that being Spider-Man costs Peter Parker his identity piece by piece. Not in a dramatic transformation, but in subtle compromises. He misses moments he can never get back, he disappoints people he genuinely loves, and he accepts blame even when circumstances are impossible. The mask stops being just a disguise and starts becoming a barrier, separating him from a normal life he can see but never touch. What keeps this story from becoming unbearably dark is its strange sense of resilience, because even as Peter is pushed to his limits, there is a stubborn, almost ridiculous optimism that refuses to die. He keeps moving forward not because he believes things will improve, but because stopping would mean admitting defeat. This stubborn persistence is both inspiring and tragic, turning Spider-Man into a symbol of endurance rather than victory. The curiosity deepens when you realize how much this story says about heroism itself, suggesting that true heroism is not glamorous, not rewarding, and often not even recognized. The brutality is not in physical pain, but in emotional erosion, in the slow realization that the world will keep taking from you as long as you keep giving. Spider-Man becomes a mirror for anyone who has ever tried too hard, cared too much, and laughed through stress because it felt easier than breaking down. By the end of this breakdown, it becomes clear why this Spider-Man story is far more brutal than most people expect, because it does not rely on shock value or extreme violence, but on relatability, inevitability, and the quiet horror of responsibility without relief. It challenges the idea that jokes make pain lighter, showing instead that sometimes they just make it easier to carry. This is why this story lingers long after it ends, because it changes how you interpret every future Spider-Man moment, every joke, every sacrifice, every swing across the city, reminding you that behind the mask is someone constantly choosing others over himself. It proves that Spider-Man's greatest battles are not fought against villains, but against exhaustion, guilt, and the fear that stopping would mean failing everyone. If you enjoyed this funny, curious, and deeply intriguing breakdown of a Spider-Man story that is far more brutal than it first appears, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more full story breakdowns. Comment below with your thoughts on this hidden side of Spider-Man, and share this video with someone who thinks Spider-Man always lands on his feet, because sometimes the hardest hits are the ones you never see coming.